Hello friends, and welcome to week 2 of my Samhain series. In today's video, I will be sharing with you how to make a Samhain oil. Similar to last week's video, this oil can be used to honor your ancestors, to anoint candles, spell work, or yourself when working with your loved ones that have passed on, or other spirits you wish to communicate with. It can also work as an oil to use with deities, but it's more specific for ancestor work. I used a lot of the same ingredients as the incense from last week, so if you already have the herbs from last week, you will only be needing a few more ingredients that you probably already have in your pantry. So if you're ready to make this oil, let's get started. As you can see here, I have added just a small scoop of the ancestor incense from last week's video to cleanse any energies from the bottle or jar that you will be using for this. But don't worry, if you didn't make the incense, you can always go back and watch it since they use many of the same ingredients. Or if you wanted to just use a little pinch of frankincense or any of the other herbs from this, you can do that as well. The first ingredient you will be needing is sage. Sage, as you might already know, is most commonly used for purification and cleansing. In this oil, sage clears away any negative entities or energies. Sage is also considered a plant of wisdom. Did you ever hear the term wise sage? It offers you mental strength, wisdom, and clarity while you do rituals invoking your ancestors. Next up is myrrh, and myrrh is a highly magical herb that is used as a funeral herb for consecration and is used for religious rites. Myrrh was used in ceremonies in ancient Egypt as an incense and in herbal mixtures for embalming the body. Myrrh helps provide you access to the mysteries of death and rebirth. It is said that when using myrrh as an incense or an oil blend like this, it gives you a heightened awareness of how energy flows within the world of the mundane and of the ethereal magical realm. Frankincense, like myrrh, is a highly spiritual herb. Both were used in religious rites of past and in many ancient civilizations like the Egyptians, as I already mentioned. It is a very powerful and high vibrational resin that is used to honor your deities, gods and goddesses, and of course your ancestors. Frankincense has both feminine and masculine energies, so it represents the divine becoming manifest. It can be used on its own for ritual purposes as it is both yin and yang in one singular herb. If you ever run out of any of these other ingredients, you can always use frankincense alone. Sunflower is representative of the end of summer. Sunflowers are the last of the summer harvest, and we use sunflowers to honor that last crop of the year. Sunflowers are associated with the sun, of course, solar energy, and the star sign of Leos. They bring that bright, joyful energy to bring a smile to your face when you think of your loved ones that have passed. Rosemary is highly prized for its use in consecration formulas and for empowering your memory. So in this case, rosemary is used to mark special celebrations that you want to remember. It makes the occasion more sacred and helps keep the memories alive in the minds of all who are in attendance. So whether you want to use this oil on a loved one's altar, to remember your memories with them, or to even celebrate their birthday, anniversary, or any other special day, it helps you remember them with love and recall all the blessings that they brought into your life. Rose was an ingredient that called out to me as I was coming up with this recipe. Rose speaks to me often, and I find myself adding her to a lot of different mixtures. When you think of remembering someone you love, or bringing a gift, or even flowers you place on an altar or a grave, roses come to the forefront of my mind. Roses are high vibrational flowers that represent the ability to love, nurture, and see the beauty in all things. Roses can be used to honor the goddess, to draw down the moon, and many other significant rituals such as this ancestor oil. Pine is considered a sacred tree among many cultures and communities around the world. Pine has been used for both protective magic and purification. It helps clear your space of negative energy and sends back any dark forces to their source. Dragon's blood has a long history of use for funeral rites and embalming the dead. Dragon's blood was and still is currently used as an incense during rituals of death. It is also highly protective and powerful. It drives away any evil and negativity as well as increases the potency and power of anything it is added to. Cinnamon is yet another herb that was prolific among the ancient people. The ancient Romans and Egyptians used cinnamon to decorate temples and as an oil during the mummification process. When used as an incense, cinnamon raises high spiritual vibrations, stimulates psychic power, and is extremely protective. Marigold is used to honor the dead in modern-day Mexico. It is also known as calendula, which comes in many different varieties from yellow to orange to more unique colors like pink and deep rust with heirloom varieties, but orange is the most commonly used in ceremony. It is used to honor and pay respects to those who have passed on and is the perfect flower to add to your Samhain altar. Star anise is used for consecration, protection, and for funeral and religious rites. It was used by the ancients as sacred incense for temples and churches, as well as planted in ceremonies, burial sites, and temple grounds. As an incense, powdered star anise assists in invoking deities, ancestors, all while keeping you safe and banishing negative energy. Sandalwood is a very sacred herb that is associated with immortality, consecration, and funeral rituals. It has been used for embalming and in assisting the spiritual body safely travel to its next life. Sandalwood is great in this oil, especially if you want to achieve some kind of communication with your ancestors, as it helps clear and calm the mind, puts you in a meditative state so you can hear or see any clear messages or signs that may come through. As you start adding in your ingredients, make sure that you are enchanting and putting your intention into every herb that goes into this oil. You can either speak over it or say something silently in your head, make a sigil or a protective symbol over each herb, just placing your hands upon it, whatever feels comfortable and natural to you. I am adding in all the herbs and resins in whole, but of course you can crush it up a little bit in your mortar and pestle to release more of those scents, but since this oil will be sitting for about 4 to 6 weeks, I don't really see the point, as it's going to be infusing for quite a long time and really empowering and infusing into the oil without crushing it at all. And as usual, I'm not really giving any proportions or measurements for these oils, since it all depends on the size of jar that you guys are going to be using, and I don't expect you to go out and buy the exact same jar that I'm using here. So if you're using a larger jar, of course, put more herbs in, and if you're using a tiny little vial, I would just use maybe a pinch. I would say that I'm using probably a heaping teaspoon of each in this mixture, since I have a pretty small bottle. And to be honest, if you're going to be using this only once a year on Samhain, or if you don't do that much ancestor work, I don't suggest that you use a larger jar, because you're just going to be wasting all that oil, and oil can be expensive depending on what kind you use. But for this recipe, I chose to use sweet almond oil just because I have it in bulk due to my business, but you could also use olive oil, grapeseed, sunflower, anything you can get at the grocery store. And just as a little reminder, as I'm adding in this sandalwood, as I mentioned in the previous video, sandalwood is an endangered tree due to overharvesting, the illegal sandalwood trade, and disease. Santalum album, I don't think I'm saying that right, but it's one of the main species of sandalwood out of India, and some other different species are either endangered, vulnerable, or at risk according to the ICUN Red List of Threatened Species and also the United Plant Savers. Australia has made some efforts to renew and protect its sandalwood supply. It still has its problems, but it's the most reliable source right now, so make sure that you're not buying any sandalwood unless you know its origins and whether it was ethically sourced. And I'm going to link some resources in the description if you're interested in learning a little bit more about it. Next, add in your pine needles, or you could also use pine resin or sap if you have that. And here I'm adding in dragon's blood oil. To be honest, I didn't really feel like crushing up any more dragon's blood since I didn't have my mortar and pestle handy, and I already had this made. I actually have a short clip of this on my Instagram at Aquarian Plant Magic if you want to follow that, so you could also make the oil. You will also be needing smoky quartz and black tourmaline crystals. Smoky quartz is used to guide souls to the afterlife and was used in shamanic rituals and used for scrying to connect with spirits. Smoky quartz helps ground you into this physical plane while connecting you spiritually to other realms to help you communicate with your spirit guides and ancestors. Black tourmaline helps protect you and deflect and send away any negative energies or entities during rituals. Make sure you're charging and placing your intention into the crystals before adding them, and then fill your bottle or jar up with the sweet almond oil or whatever oil you're using, and you're done. Just let this oil charge for 4 to 6 weeks, or if you're using it for Samhain, you have 2 weeks to charge it, and just leave it under the moonlight or charge it with a black, a gold, or even an orange candle if you like. And then once it burns down, you're ready to use the oil. Let me know if you have any questions or comments down below. Thanks for watching the second week of the Samhain series, and see you next time.